The village of Maboko was a peaceful place, surrounded by golden fields and thick forest. Life was simple but full of struggles. In this village, a young boy named Obina lived with his parents, Chike and Amora. They were not the best parents, always busy, always distracted, always thinking of themselves before their son. They believed children raised themselves, and Obina often felt invisible in his own home. But one fateful day, their carelessness would go too far. They would forget him. And what happened next was something no one in Maboko would ever forget. Obina was just 10 years old, but he was wiser than his age. He knew his parents only cared about their money, their friends, and their endless parties. Whenever they were home, they argued about debts, business deals, or whose turn it was to cook. But no one ever argued about Obina. He was just there, a shadow in their loud, chaotic world. One morning, Chike and Amora had a big wedding to attend in a town 3 hours away. It was a high society event, and they had spent the whole week planning what to wear, who to impress, and how to make connections. They didn't even notice when Obina tried to remind them about his school play that evening. "Mama, remember my play? You said you'd come." Amora barely looked up from the mirror. "We'll see, Obina. We are very busy. Now go and do something useful." Obina sighed. He had learned not to expect much. Later that afternoon, Chike and Amora got into their flashy car, laughing and chatting about the wedding. The engine roared to life. Obina stood by the door, waiting for a goodbye. But they didn't even glance at him. They drove off, leaving him behind. Obina thought they would be back soon. He played with his neighbor's son, turned, for a while, then ran home to get ready for his play. He put on his school uniform, excited to perform. But as the hours passed, his excitement faded into confusion. Where were his parents? The sun dipped below the horizon. One by one, the other children were picked up by their families. Teachers gave him strange looks. "Obina, where are your parents?" his teacher, Madam Ngozi, asked. They are coming," he lied, forcing a smile. But they weren't coming. Soon, the school was empty. Even the janitor had left. The gates were locked. Obina sat on the cold steps, his heart pounding. Fear crept into his bones. He had never been alone at night before. Then, a chilling realization hit him. His parents had forgotten him. Determined to get home, Obina decided to walk. The streets were dark, and shadows stretched like monsters along the road. He clutched his school bag tightly, his small feet moving quickly. A white van rolled to a stop beside him. The driver, a man with a kind smile and deep scars on his face, leaned out. "Hey, little one. Are you lost?" Obina hesitated. He had been warned about strangers. "I can take you home," the man continued. "It's not safe out here alone." Obina swallowed hard. He thought of the wild animals in the forest, the stories of boys who disappeared. He glanced at the road ahead, empty, dark, lonely. With a deep breath, he nodded and got into the van. Big mistake. The doors locked with a loud click. Obina's stomach tightened. The driver didn't ask for directions. He didn't speak. He just drove. Faster and faster. Away from Maboko. Obina's throat dried. "Sir, where are we going?" No answer. His small hands shook. He reached for the door handle, but there were no handles inside. Panic exploded in his chest. He had been taken. Back in Maboko, Chike and Amora arrived home late at night. Drunk and exhausted, they stumbled into bed without a second thought. The next morning, Amora stretched lazily. "Obina, make tea," she called. "Silence. Obina." Chike shouted. Still, no answer. Slowly, realization dawned on them. They checked the rooms. Empty. The yard. Empty. Panic settled in their bones. Where was their son? They rushed to his school, but Madame Dozie's face turned cold. You left your child alone at night. In this dangerous world. You call yourselves parents. Shame and fear twisted inside them. They had truly forgotten him. But where was he now? Obinna was locked in a small, dark room. He wasn't alone. There were other children, scared, hungry, and hopeless. The scar-faced man had a name. Musa. And he was no good man. Obinna listened as Musa and his men whispered outside. They were planning something terrible. The children were to be sold. Shipped off. Never to be seen again. Tears filled Obinna's eyes. Was this how his story ended? Forgotten by his own parents, taken by evil men. Then, he saw it. A small window. His only chance. Using all his strength, Obinna climbed up. His hands bled as he squeezed through the tiny space. He fell into the bushes outside. And he ran. Musa's men heard the noise. They chased him. The night swallowed their angry shouts. Obinna ran faster than he ever had. Through the thick forest, over sharp rocks. He didn't stop. Until he saw lights. A road. A police car. With his last bit of energy, he stumbled forward. Help. By morning, Obinna was safe. The police raided Musa's hideout. The other children were rescued. And his parents. They arrived at the station, faces pale, eyes red. But when they tried to hug him, Obinna stepped back. Something had broken. You forgot me, he said, voice cold. They begged for forgiveness. But some things cannot be undone.